Welcome back to TechRadar. I'm Matt Hansen, Senior Computing Editor.
And I'm Matt Phillips, video producer here at TechRadar. And we are here today to chat about the brand new MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020. They don't officially name them like that, do they? But they don't name their stuff well enough, really, for you to know what we're talking about. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And Matt, you're reviewing it for us. So I know that just before Christmas, we got the MacBook 16, right? 16-inch MacBook Pro. And I know you absolutely love that laptop. Thought it was one of the best MacBooks ever. So how does this compare? Is this an equal step up in a smaller form factor? Is that what we're looking at here?
No. So I did like the 16-bit MacBook a lot, the MacBook Pro. I sort of made sure to make clear that it's an incredibly powerful laptop, that one. So it's only for creative professionals who really need a lot of power and who have a lot of money. Right. So the 13-inch MacBook, they've always been slightly less powerful, quite deliberately, than the larger MacBook Pros. So they're a bit more of an affordable way to get into the more powerful MacBook Pros. If you need something that's a bit above your average MacBook Air, but you don't have quite the budget to go to a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and you don't need the incredibly powerful professional graphics cards that are included in the MacBook Pro 16-inch.
Well, that makes sense to me. So let's start then by chatting about price and availability. So as far as I'm aware, we're looking at £1,700, is that correct?
Well, actually starts at $1,299. This is for the entry level.
Okay.
Which is the same price as the 2019 model started at.
I'm with you.
And then there is the mid-range, which is the $1,799. And
I'm with you.
So I applaud Apple for continuing to do this, if you look at them, the 2019 and the 2020, essentially at the moment on paper you're getting an upgrade for free because it's the same price.
Sure.
What realistically though, obviously with the 2020 model coming out, the 2019 model will drop in price in various stores where they still sell them. Apple products don't usually lose their value that quickly, but I think you'll be able to find some models of the 2019 version with slightly bigger price cuts. So they're still expensive laptops.
Yeah,
1,300, 1,800 is expensive for a laptop. But I like the fact that there hasn't been an increase in price when you buy them.
Sure, and I've only briefly looked through your review now quickly, but it seems like to me the major upgrade, the standout upgrade that you're going to get over last year's model is the keyboard. And obviously Apple laptop keyboards have been hot topics for a long time. So is this keyboard that much of an improvement? Can you see people going out and upgrading essentially just for that keyboard?
Yeah. Oh well, it's an expensive keyboard if you're buying it just for the keyboard. Sure. But it is a massive improvement. So the previous MacBook Pros and older MacBooks used what Apple call the butterfly switch, which is the way that they when you press the key, it was supposed to allow the keys to depress quite a bit without making a big, thick, chunky laptop. The problem was a lot of people complained about the fact that crumbs or dust would get in between the keys, and then after a while of using them, certain keys would either not work or they would get stuck. So you'd press it and then it would just go G or whatever.
I have experienced this issue.
Exactly, yeah. Anecdotally, I have actually, a lot of people have come up to me and said, I love the MacBook, I hate the MacBook keyboard, it's broken. So with the 16-inch model last year, they introduced what they call the Magic Keyboard, which comes with a similar mechanism to the one you'd find with the iMac, with the keyboard which comes separate to the iMac.
Right.
And I found it to be a huge improvement, not only because of the reliability. I haven't heard of widespread reliability problems, so it sounds like that's been fixed, but it's just so much nicer to type on. Right. The keys just feel more tactile when you're typing, and I'm a big fan of the new keyboard. So then, as we kind of hoped, Apple brought the new keyboard to the MacBook Air 2020 and now to the MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020, and I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, a reason that you would go for this laptop over the MacBook Air, which you just mentioned, is the power under the hood, right? So can you chat a little bit about that? What can we expect?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, and this is where things get a little bit complicated. So basically, the big selling point of the new MacBook Pro 13-inch, apart from the keyboard, is that that certain models come with a 10th generation Intel processor and faster RAM.
Right.
And also double storage that usually would get. So the base model last year came with 128 gigabyte SSD.
Mm-hmm.
That's not enough space, especially if you're a creative professional. Yeah, it really is. So now the base model comes with 256 gigabytes, so that's very welcome. Goes up to 4 terabytes, and you can now configure it with 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Right.
However, that entry-level model that I talked about, the 2020, which comes for $1,300, £1,300, that still comes with an 8th generation Intel processor. So, and slower RAM.
Yep.
So actually, you've got to be a bit careful with this, because for the mid-range, the standard one for £1,700, £1,800, it is an upgrade. Specs-wise, the 10th generation processor is a lot more powerful. It comes with better integrated graphics. The integrated graphics is key because the 13-inch MacBook Pros don't come with discrete graphics cards like the 16-inch version does. So if you're doing video editing, 3D rendering, stuff like that, on a 13-inch MacBook Pro, you're relying on the integrated graphics, which can never really compete with a discrete graphics card, but they're a lot better with the 10th generation.
Sure.
But if you get the entry level, you're not getting those performance improvements. And that's a bit of a annoyance, really, to be honest, because now there's a bigger gap between the entry level and the mid-range.
Right.
To the point where I can't really recommend anyone buying the entry level model, because when you see Apple talking about the new MacBook Pro 13-inch, saying 10 with they'll say up to 10th generation Intel Core i5, improved graphics performance, faster RAM, that only applies to the mid-range $1,800 and up.
Yeah, and talking around that $1,800 price point, you know, if you were looking to get something similar but not in the Apple ecosystem, are you getting value for money by going for the Apple one here? Like, if we were going to go for a similar sort of Dell XPS 13 or something like that, which I think is about $1,200, right, or £1,200, for a 10th gen chipset. So what is the benefit here of going for a Mac over a Windows machine in that sort of circumstance?
I think the Dell XPS 13 isn't necessarily a professional creative laptop like the MacBook Pro 13 inches is being pitched as. So whilst there are some similarities with the hardware specs, the reason you would go for the MacBook Pro, one, if you're already a MacBook owner and you really love Mac OS,
you
know, you're into the ecosystem, then it's an easy upgrade. You don't have to mess around with Windows. I find that Macs last longer, they seem to, than Windows laptops. They seem to perform well over a couple of years. You know, you could bump into people who say that they're still using their Mac from 10 years ago, and you don't do that with Windows. So the build quality is still excellent. It's got the touch bar, which is the little OLED display which runs across the keyboard.
Love it or hate it.
It is. It is divisive. I don't mind it. I don't use it that often, but every now and again, when you've opened up InDesign or Photoshop and it comes up with the button you were looking for right at the top, then you go, okay, that's right. So, you know, it's not deal breaker. Some people, I think, are quite fond of it. Some people are just like, it's a waste. But you can't buy a MacBook Pro 13-inch now without that. So it's the general build quality. It's got a longer battery life than most Windows PCs of that sort of caliber. I've yet to run our full battery benchmarks, but Apple promises around 10 hours, which in previous MacBooks I found they've done that.
Okay.
Whereas with a Windows laptop with this kind of spec, I think about 5 hours. 5 to 8 hours. So another thing which I hate about Windows laptops, which I really like about Macs, and it's the same with Chromebooks as well, is that you can close a MacBook Pro, just close the lid, leave it for a couple of days, open it up again, and it's still got battery.
Yeah.
With Windows, though, it still sucks battery when the lid's closed somehow.
Yeah.
And so often I've come back to a laptop that I've just closed and on a Windows, and either the battery's completely gone or it's very close to going. So
yeah, fair enough.
So there's this little quality of life things, which I think people would sway people to a MacBook Pro 13-inch.
Sure.
But then there are also Windows 10 workstations aimed at creatives that are doing really interesting things at the moment. We're seeing a lot of companies like Razer and Gigabyte and Acer, companies which you might normally more associate with gaming laptops, creating these very powerful workstation laptops aimed at professionals, creative professionals, because the mobile graphics cards they have in for gaming are actually really, really good for like intensive graphical tasks as well. So they're coming a long way, and they're very good, very competitive price wise. But with the MacBook Pro, as I said earlier, with the 13-inch version, you don't get a discrete graphics card, so they don't really compete with that.
Yeah.
So it's not bad value.
One thing I think is worth touching on just before we sign off here is the display itself. So I know a lot of people were hoping that this would actually be a 14-inch MacBook, right? And that Apple would condense the bezel similar to what they did with the 16-inch and squeeze out an extra inch of screen. And they haven't done that. Is that a big deal as far as you're concerned, that extra 1 inch? Would that have made a difference when you come to review it?
It'd be quite nice. I mean, I'll never complain about having more screen real estate without increasing the overall size of the laptop. So the fact is, when you get a 13-inch laptop, the key thing is how easy it is to carry around and put everywhere. The difference between a 13-inch and a 16-inch laptop or a 15-inch laptop is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working, if you've ever worked on a plane or on a train where you have the little fold out, 13 inches can really help with that. So I wouldn't want them to increase the screen size if it meant increasing the overall size of the laptop.
Sure.
So, but yeah, they haven't changed it. Apple hasn't changed anything with the screen rise with this one, so you're still getting still 13.3 inches. It's the Retina resolution, which looks fantastic. It's not 4K. You get 4K screens in 13-inch, which I think is a bit overkill sometimes, but there's no denying they look stunning. So the Dell XPS does a 4K version. And it also comes with, I'm just double checking this, but it comes with the P3 wide color gamut. So that just means if you're working with video or photography where color accuracy is really important, this sets it apart from, for example, the Dell XPS 13, because this is why it's geared towards creative professionals. So you're paying a bit extra for that.
I'm with you. So it sounds like a pretty substantial upgrade over the previous version, especially in the keyboard department. And like you say, it's a decent price as well for the specs you're getting, it sounds.
It is, as long as you go for the mid-range and above.
Yeah. The
entry level, I think you're better off getting a MacBook Air. If you're concerned about value over performance, then a MacBook Air 2020 is a better proposition.
Fantastic. Well, some solid buying advice for you there, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future content, and head over to techradar.com for the latest tech news and reviews.